morning, fellow constitutionalists, and welcome to the Monday edition of the Dan Clement Show, a Christian political talk show. This is episode 829. I'm your host, Dan Clement, your constitutional warrior, fighting for your right just to be an American. It is June 26th in the year of our Lord 2017. Remember, we're hyphen-free, PC-free zone. God is still in control, and He does love you. And we do what we do here at the Dan Clement Show, knowing the fear of the Lord, we persuade men and women of the truth. And I'm broadcasting live from the Hemlock Studios here in the beautiful Central Susquehanna Valley in the great Keystone State. Little, not technical difficulty, just I hit the wrong song in a box. I set that one up for May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. I do apologize for that, but you know what? Every now and then we have a little glitch, and that was human error there. That wasn't computer error. Oh, wow. What a good weekend as far as being alive. I was having issues all week last week, and with my fibromyalgia, I do apologize for that. I didn't get everything caught up the way I wanted to. On the show notes page, those will definitely be caught up today. I'm feeling much better today. I was actually without my Rocky Mountain High drinks for about most of the week last week until I got them in on Thursday. And I started drinking them on Thursday, and I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I was kind of on the bad way on Saturday and Sunday with just the excessive muscle pain and muscle ache. So the Rocky Mountain High brands are the official drink of the DanClementShow.com. I drink them. I recommend them. I've had every one of them. I bought the sample pack, and you can find that over at Amazon.com. I've been saying I want to get a store set up, and I'm slowly working at that. Like I said, I'm a one-man show. Full disclosure, I am a investor in the Dan Clement Show, and or in Rocky Mountain High brands. I just lost where in the world did there it went. Why did it go clear to the bottom? Huh. I just lost in my Open Broadcaster Studio, for some reason, my video of me, the cue for it went clear down the bottom of the list. I must have accidentally moved it down there. So more human error going on here today. So you know, if you like the benefits of hemp oil, each 16-ounce drink at Rocky Mountain High brands has 100 milligrams of hemp oil, and they have ginseng in them. I've been drinking the lemonade is my favorite by far, and I've been drinking the lemonade, and it reminds me of Fresca, the old Fresca. It uses pure beet sugar, and only has 26 grams for the 16 ounces. You compare that to any other energy drink out there, most of them have 50 to 60 grams. It's over 2 times the sugar. You don't need that much sugar. You know, that's not where you get your energy from. Matter of fact, listened to the Country Western station this morning, and they had one of these brain crackers, they call it, and doing this daily increases your energy by 30%. I'm like, I was thinking like drinking water or exercising, walking, whatever it was. Here it is, brushing your teeth. Just a simple act of freshening up your mouth. You know, washing away the bad bacteria and all that kind of stuff increases your energy by 30%. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm so chipper in the morning, because I do brush my teeth every morning and every night before I go to bed. What was some other things I wanted to bring up to you before we got into everything that was going on here? I got a lot of news today, and there's the free speech rally was going on over the weekend. I was trying to find news and videos on that to actually watch, and there wasn't too much going on. I think today most of them will be posting them up today. Anybody that was there over the weekend will probably be posting them up today. So I'm going to have maybe some clips and some articles about that for tomorrow's show. I do have the chat room open over at, if you listen to Blog Talk Radio, I have the live chat room over at my YouTube channel. Just if you know what the link is, just go YouTube and type in the Dan Clement Show, take you right to my show page and the live event that I'm putting on. I do a live simulcast of Blog Talk Radio every day. So I found a real inexpensive Dell computer that I have coming. And so I will have a third computer in here, get rid of my laptop, freshen up the desk a little bit more to make it look a little more efficient and do a couple other things in here. But eventually what's going to happen here later on this week, once I get the computer and get Linux loaded on it, get everything loaded up on it, pictures, Skype, the whole 9 yards, get the whole thing squared away, I'll still be using this computer to broadcast the show while I'm doing that. But once I feel confident we get that squared away, then I'll be producing on a computer, the video and everything. I'll be streaming on another computer, and then on my main computer, I'm putting the load back on for Blog Talk Radio and the chat rooms on my main computer. And that's the only thing that'll be doing besides the music and stuff like that on my main computer. So I'm splitting the load up 3 ways. So hopefully when you're listening to Blog Talk Radio, I've had people tell me that it's kind of choppy sometimes. And I'm not, I hear it in the recording, but I don't know if that comes through on live. So we'll be taking care of that right shortly here. So hopefully I get these things in place. And it's still way cheaper. Folks have been telling me on YouTube and Twitch that'd be, I should just get a huge gaming computer to do what I'm doing. And I have more than enough process, GPU, the whole 9 yards to do what I'm doing. But you're talking upwards of $2,000 for a gaming computer. And it's like, no, I'll figure this out, and I am. With the 2 computers I got, what I paid for them are less than $300 for the streaming and my third computer coming in. So, I'm still saving a bundle, and both of them are using i5, Intel i5 processors, which are really good. So, we're continuing to get the technical glitches out of the show, make it a better show for you. I just on the desk behind me over here, that's where I do my correspondence. I help with a prison ministry. Do correspondence. Of course, I grade them, make notes, sign, make little letters and stuff like that, send to them to encourage them while they're in prison, while they're studying God's word and that. So that's. Honestly, that's the main reason why I did that desk, other than combining it with, doing the daily bills and stuff. I got to do some filing over there. My filing bin over there is getting kind of full. So I got to do some filing there, get that cleared off. And I also use that to help me do some Bible studying over there also. So, and my wife is still helping me try to figure out the office in here, the studio. I told her I should just get a green screen, stick behind me, and I can put anything on there I want, right? I can act like I'm broadcasting from the Arabian desert or, the jungle, the Amazon jungles or something like that. Oh, man. I'm trying to remember. I get a word real quick here, folks. I'm trying to expand my vocabulary a little bit, if I can enunciate my words correctly. And there was a word of the day, and it's going to take a while for me to remember, but it was kind of funny, and it was, and my wife memorized it before I did. I really can't believe she did that. And I'll have that word of the day up for you tomorrow and share it with you. It actually applies to Free For All Friday, so I might just wait till Friday to air that word. I might just do that because it does actually have to do with the show, but more so for the Free For All Friday edition. I was always trying to find a word to describe what we did, like a Donnybrook. This is going to be a real Donnybrook on Friday, and that means a fight or a brawl. And that was okay, but it didn't really capture what I wanted, so I didn't really use that word that much. But this one here in the word of the day I found did. So I'm teasing you with that right now. I'll save that for Friday and air that on Friday and start trying to work that word into the show more often. Today's daily Bible reading comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. Now the Lord had said to Abram, "Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. And you shall be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you, and will curse him who curses you. And in all the families of the earth, you shall be, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." Now, here we have another good example, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this with an article I got coming up for the show today that I thought was just a perfect example of misunderstanding the Bible and not actually doing your due diligence when it comes to reading your Bible and stuff like that. So, but too many times when when God talks about these blessings of Abraham and your family, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed, this is not a physical blessing. This is a spiritual blessing that God's talking about if you keep everything in context and talk about this blessing that's going on here. And it amazes me how many people claim to know what the Bible says, and then when you really dig into it with them, they write their articles and stuff like that, and you dig in with them, they have no clue. They absolutely have no clue what the Bible says because they're not using proper hermeneutics, keeping things in context, doing word studies, seeing what things mean. Yes, it does take some time, but I think it's worth it. I think all the Bible study that I've ever done has been very worthwhile for me and those around me. Today's quote meal comes from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Salvation's free. He's absolutely right. But discipleship will cost you your life. And again, he's absolutely right. To be a disciple of Christ, we have to turn our lives over to Christ. And we have to turn over our lives to his ways and his commands and how he wants us to live our lives with each other. Today's short Bible lesson comes from Wayne Jackson of thechristiancourier.com. Jesus showed himself alive by many proofs. Good article. A little lengthy, but very good. Chock full of information and some insights that are really good that only Wayne Jackson, I won't say only Wayne Jackson, but only Wayne Jackson can deliver the way Wayne Jackson can deliver them. And it's very good, and I just want to emphasize that by many proofs that Jesus Christ, beyond a shadow of a doubt, proved that he was the Messiah. He was the Son of God. Through all his miracles, he confirmed the word that he was preaching to everybody while he was alive. And then in his resurrection and showing himself to all these different people was added proof that he is who he says he is. That he's Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and he died for our sins and was raised on the third day. And now he's sitting at the right hand of the Father in heaven. Good lesson. Go over to dancolumbushow.com and click on the link, which these will all be, all the show links will be, or show note pages will be called up this afternoon on that. All right. A couple things in the news. Senator Rand Paul, I can summarize the health care cost problem in one sentence, and he does a fantastic job of doing this. He talks about, the whole thing with federal government run health care is, one, it's unconstitutional. There's nowhere in the Constitution that gives them enumerated power to govern over health care. Now, I had some folks on Indivisible Guide on my Facebook page disagreed with me on that. They said, well, it's a general welfare clause gives them the power. I said, you need to, I gently said this, I said, you need to go back and study your Constitution because the general welfare clause in Article 1, Section 8 is a modifier. It's not an enumerated power. It says when we make these laws, we have these enumerated powers, and when we govern by these, they have to be done for the general welfare of all, not just a few. The general welfare of all. And so they're not talking about, like I said, we take today's terms and we put it on yesterday's words, just like this video I'm going to finalize today or tomorrow about Jesus, the first transgender man. They totally, and I'll use this other article today to show you this example, they totally do not know what the Bible says. They have a superficial understanding of the Bible, and because they have a superficial understanding of the Bible, they absolutely don't understand what the Bible's there for. And so, it's an ongoing thing. And these are progressive socialist liberals that are saying this stuff. And they come back and they didn't say anything. Now, hopefully they're going back. Hopefully I've spurred them to go on to study the Constitution to see if what I'm telling them is the truth. And I even gave them a website. You go to this website, Constitutional Mythbusters. Go there. And the folks there really explain these myths about the Constitution that modern politicos have today. And it amazes me how much garbage there is going on out there that they say this is unconstitutional, or the best example was, President Trump's causing a constitutional crisis by firing Comey. The country's coming to an end. And if you look, if you look in the Constitution, he has not, and to my knowledge hasn't, and probably won't in the future, hopefully, create a constitutional crisis. The only crisis is on the Democrat side of politics and the anti-freedom groups out there, because they're trying to do away with Obamacare, which these folks on there, they put this article out saying, and I have it in here. They put an article out there saying that the Republicans aren't being truthful about this, and they're trying to obfuscate the facts to carry the day with their message. And, I told them, I said, Obamacare was based on lies. What are you talking about? Left it at that. It was. Keep your doctor, keep your health care plan. Premiums will go down, they won't go up. And all three of those, amongst other promises, were false. They were false from the beginning. There's no way they could have done anything that they promised in Obamacare. Nothing. So, but anyway, Rand Paul. He says, I promised people I was going to repeal it. I didn't promise people I was going to replace it with a federal program or bailing out insurance companies, the senator told MSNBC's Morning Joe on Friday. Paul said the Republican bill brought out in summary form Thursday retains the fundamental flaws of Obamacare and keep premiums high. Paul said he would prefer to address the actual medical cost, and I can summarize the health care cost problem in one sentence, Paul said. Now, he goes on, he goes on to say some things, but he really summarizes at the end of this. He says, the reason capitalism doesn't work in healthcare is the consumer is disconnected from the product. Consumers do not make decisions based on price in healthcare except for a few exceptions. LASIK surgery. Where you want to get your surgery to get rid of glasses, everybody asks the price. The average consumer calls 4 different doctors. It's a very sophisticated laser, millions of dollars later, yet the price going down by 3/4 over 15 years. And insurances won't cover LASIK. It's in the private sector. Oh, why is the price going down? Competition. Okay. Contact lens the same way. When you contact the consumer cares about the price. Guess what? The consumer will shop, and when the consumer shops, competition works. But we're not really doing that in healthcare. Most of healthcare cost has fixed prices, Medicare fixed prices, Medicaid fixed prices, and even private insurances. No consumer shops for price. There's a little bit of competition in what prices come forward, but not really with the consumers involved. And this is really what we get into when he says here. Paul said the fundamental flaw of Obamacare is that it allows people to buy insurance after they're sick, and it subsidizes premiums by dumping a bunch of money in insurance companies. My problem is insurance companies already make $15 billion a year. I don't think the taxpayers should give them any more, and I agree. However, real quick here, because it is the federal government's messing in an area it's not allowed to constitutionally mess in, then you get all this kind of nonsense that Paul's talking about. Paul said he'd like to legalize inexpensive insurance by having insurance companies, not the taxpayer, assume the risk. I have absolutely no sympathy for insurance companies to be bailed out by the taxpayers. That $15 billion in profit, that's where the risk should come from. That's where, when we have to absorb risk when people get sick, it should come out of their profit. It shouldn't come out of the taxpayer's pocket. Exactly. I've been saying this for years. About medical savings accounts. That would be honestly, medical savings account like 401ks. You take them with you when you go from job to job, and the employer puts into it at a set amount, and you do the same thing, and there's no lapse in coverage like all these people are crying about. Preconditions, and there wouldn't be any lapse in that. And yet, to me, that's common sense, but people are afraid to change, folks. They really are, And I titled the show today, let me get back over there so I get the right wording on there, because I spent a little time. Resist everything, question nothing. And that's exactly what's happening today. Everybody's resisting everything, it seems like. Not every last American, but it seems like a lot of people out there are resisting everything that comes along down the pike. Doesn't matter which side of the freedom aisle you're on, or the political aisle, or left or right paradigm, doesn't matter. They're resisting everything, and they question nothing. They don't even question why they're resisting. These folks over in Indivisible Group, and I read these comments on a daily basis, not all of them, but I go down through and read some of them, a smattering of them. They don't even, honestly, most of them don't even know why they're resisting. They just know they have this thing in their mind that Obama or Trump's evil, and everything he does is evil, so we have to resist him. And yet that's the extent. That's the extent of their research. They don't go any deeper than that. They question nothing. And that's a dangerous place to be in this world. And this is how we got what we're at here. Paul also called for honest debate on how to pay for Obamacare's Medicaid expansion, which added low-income adults to the system intended for elderly, poor, and the disabled. Folks, and this has been bannered about real quick here. If you move everybody over to medical savings accounts, every individual, everybody that's on Medicare, the welfare, and make an age cutoff saying anybody below this age on MSAs and your employers and everything, put into it just like a 401k, and that you take with you. Your employer, so as long as you're vested, even if you're not vested, you still get out what you put in, but that follows you, and you can roll that over. I've rolled a bunch of them over in an IRA, for my retirement, and bought stocks with some of them. Paid off some bills with some of them, but I'm building up my retirement fund, and it's mine. And I don't understand the fear of people going to an MSA. And what I'm saying with the age cutoff, anybody below that certain age must go on the MSAs. If you want to buy different health insurance, fine, through your company. But if they get rid of Medicare and Medicaid and only have the MSAs, then it'll behoove people to move over the MSAs. It's a personal account. Then the hospitals and doctors have to deal with you directly because you control the money in it, not the insurance company. And most MSAs, or all of them I know of or ever researched, have a catastrophic medical policy that goes along with it. And so it doesn't wipe you out financially. And that's just like a 401k should be your old age, retirement, outside of the government, outside of government control. And, honestly, I think the limits of investing in your 401k are ridiculous. I don't think they should be limited. I think it should be up to the individual, and instead of deferring the tax, and a lot of people like to defer the tax, okay, but other people, I think this is smart. Some people like to pay the taxes as they go. That way, when they draw it out, they're not paying the tax on it because they already paid the tax on it. I think that's a smart way to go, depending on, especially if the taxes go way high, you're not being taxed too heavily for that. So a lot of common sense things coming out here. But my main thrust with most of these people is they don't know what the Constitution says, and they don't know the unconstitutionality of Obamacare or Ryan Care. They don't. And Rand Paul's exactly right. We need to just repeal it. And again, use the Commerce Clause to prevent states from allowing insurance companies to sell insurance in their states. They have to. And that's what the Commerce Clause is there for. Right now we have a perfect situation in healthcare to explain why the Commerce Clause was put there, because we have states restricting businesses from other states from doing business with the people in their state, and that goes against the Commerce Clause. It was just like states that had seaports and other states that didn't. They were getting taxed by the states that had the seaports to come through their states to get their goods to market, or to get them to foreign markets. And the federal government said, no, we shouldn't be doing that. That's going to make everything, it's going to be a patchwork of taxes. It's going to make everything more expensive. And, we're the United States of America. There shouldn't be a tax from state line to state line. And the Commerce Clause took care of that. And we've grown as a nation because of that. And this is a perfect example and a perfect good use of the Commerce Clause. It really is, folks. All right. There's a story. I'm still doing some research on this. About the destroyer, the Fitzgerald. It hit the container ship in the Japanese port. over there. Well, U.S. destroyer failed to respond to warnings before fatal collision, the cargo ship captain said. And this is an article I found on Russia Today. There's conflicting reports about that. I think they're still doing the investigation on the whole situation over there, but it's still, I still see it kind of strange when you're in a port. You're supposed to be, and this is the term I couldn't remember last week, you're supposed to be at seeing anchor details called. And there's supposed to be physical lookouts and everything. You'd think they'd have saw that ship before they ran into it or it ran into them, quite honest with you. Someone was asleep at the wheel. I think they're both at fault, but especially the Navy ship, someone was asleep at the wheel, as it were. And you know, I think some heads are going to have to roll on this. I mean, that's a huge mistake. 7 people died in that. 7 servicemen died in that. So I don't know. I don't know. Oh, a couple more articles here before we get into the thrust of one. I want to get to this article about the gospel calls us to resist Donald Trump. And this is actually from Medusa magazine. Now, this is a very far-left feminist magazine by Nicole Valentine. She is definitely far-left to the point, and I've been finding this out more and more and more and more. And I'm not saying she has to be on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, but she has no presence on those sites. Now, she has a presence on this one site you have to sign up for, and it's a very restricted site and their conditions, and I'm not going to get into it about the site or anything, but seems to me it's like a site to protect the left wing, the left progressives out there from the vitriol from Twitter and Facebook, which I don't agree with all the vitriol goes on. If you're going to attack the idea, attack the idea. You don't need profanity to do it, and there was profanity laced in a couple of these articles. Not so much this one about the gospel, but she wrote another one a day or two before this one. The solution to white supremacy is white abortion. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me, folks. The left in this country is infatuated with death. They really are. Whether it's abortion or killing of congressmen and senators, or wanting Donald Trump dead, like Johnny Depp. Well, when was the last American actor to kill a president? You think it's time for another one? He was over in England when he said that. You know what? I didn't even look. I think Johnny Depp is English. If he's going to act that way, strip him of his passport. Don't allow him back in the country if he's going to act that way. You know, and Hollywood is, Mickey Rourke and other, you know, George Clooney and Melanie Griffith. They're all acting like a bunch of intentional. I'm going to try to use a big word there today. I'm having trouble with my big words. They're acting like brats. They're acting like a bunch of bratty children who didn't get their way, and they're throwing a temper tantrum. But sometimes it's provoking people to commit violence. And I said this last week. I think people are responsible for what they do, you know, physically. But I think there's also some of those out there in the progressive left, the social justice tyrants out there, is hoping that some of this speech that they're spouting is going to incite a nut job, a wing nut, that has some mental issues out there. And I don't mean to cast aspersion on people mental issues, but some of these politicos that do this because of political reasons they're wing nuts, and they need help. They need mental help. And honestly, you know, you can't say there's not some causality there. You know, for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. You can't say there isn't any causality there. And so some of these actually started me down a path of some research. And this is where I'd love to have some researchers about white supremacy in the United States of America. And I've been doing some minor research in it, got some things started. I'm not sure what show I'm going to actually have this on. But the first research I got was from the Southern Law Center, Poverty Law Center, SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center. They, of course, you've heard me talk about these folks on the show before. They're very progressive. They're social democrats. They put groups like the Constitution Party on the hate group. I was actually doing some research. They have a percentage of the groups on there of Christian hate groups out there. Now, Westboro Baptist, yeah, I'd put them right up there as a Christian hate group. But let me say something about that. Those folks are not indicative of New Testament Christianity. They are a perversion of Christianity. And just like there's the fundamentalists that are terrorists in Islam, they are, and this is different, folks. They are not the terrorists out there that are following the Quran. They're fundamentalists. They're following what the book says. Westboro Baptists, in all their terror and protesting at these funerals and stuff like that, and saying it's in the name of Jesus, are not following the New Testament at all. They are outside of the norm for New Testament Christianity. And so I'm doing some research, and that's the first ones that popped up. I got to do some deeper research before I really share everything with folks. But I have a sneaking suspicion, just from the numbers that the Southern Poverty Law Center shared, that white supremacy in the country isn't as big an issue or problem as people are making it out to be. And now it's a problem if a white supremacist is causing you some issues. Yeah, that's a problem. But as a percentage of the whole population, there's leftists out there like these folks on Medusa magazine that are totally blaming every white man or white woman that has white privilege, blaming them for all the problems that are going on in the nation. And that's not realistic, and that's not true either. It's just like abortion uses lies to promote abortion, when they're only talking about less than 7%, less than 6% of abortions are done because of rape, incest, or the mother's life is in danger. You can't govern on the margins like that. You really can't. And I have a sneaking suspicion, along the same vein, that white supremacy isn't as big a problem as the lamestream media, college professors, and their acolytes or minions on the left make it out to be. Here's an update. Remember that story last week? Let me get this popped up here. Where'd it go here? There it is. Everything wasn't in alphabetical. I didn't open everything up in alphabetical order. Sorry. Leftist illegal phobia, not Islamophobia, killed a Muslim teen. This is by Daniel Greenfield over at frontpagemag.com, posted today. When Nabra, and I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name, but you remember from last week, when Nabra was killed by Dwayne Martinez Torres, the media rushed to blame Islamophobia and Trump. The truth was simpler. It was the left's own illegal phobia that killed the Muslim teenager. Torres, an illegal alien from El Salvador, had no interest in Nabra's, they put her last name there, Nabra's religion. He got into an altercation with her friends. Abra happened to be the one he caught with her friends left behind. The murder happened in Fairfax County. So it was an illegal immigrant in this country, a protected class of the progressive left, killing, and I'm not laughing about the killing. I'm just laughing at the hypocrisy that is going on the left. Took Nabra, who happened to be Muslim, another protected class of the left, and took her out and killed her. And what happened was, and my Facebook antagonist Kimberly did this, and you couldn't dissuade her from this. Even her minions on there were supporting her and bashing me for pointing it out. This was not Trump's fault. This was a problem in the making, but it wasn't Islamophobia either. It was illegophobia by leftists in this country that want illegal aliens in here so they can give them things and so they can persuade them to vote for them. We gave you the stuff, we'll continue to give you stuff, but you got to vote for us. Vote buying. And so I just wanted to give you that update on that, because it's pretty much known that he is illegal. There were some other issues with this young man. Not that he was on a watch list or anything, but he was known. He was known to law enforcement. So I needed to point it out because the left had just went hysterical over that, blaming Trump and his policies and everything. And it wasn't Trump at all. It wasn't even, anything to do with a religion. It had an altercation with some of her friends. Friends left her behind. He targeted her, grabbed her, and killed her. It's pretty much as simple as that, folks. It really is. There's more news out. It'll be in the show notes page. I'm not going to get into this until I'm just going to give you updates. But non-citizen legal voter numbers higher than estimated. And again, this is pointing to the study and also numbers that are coming out by states' attorney generals that are helping with this investigation, with the Trump administration investigating whether there was a lot of illegal votes cast in this last election. And it could be significant enough to overturn the popular vote and give President Trump a landslide in both of them. And if that happens, and I'm telling, and this is just exactly what's going to happen. And this is why dishonesty usually comes around and bites you in the hindsight. When you're dishonest like the Democrats are. Let's say it does overturn the popular vote by millions. Let's say the couple million that Hillary won it by. Let's say it overturns that by a couple million. Guess what that gives Donald Trump? That not only gives him the electoral college vote and the popular vote, but also gives him a mandate for governance. If that happens, if they turn over these votes, and folks, get ready for the left to go ballistic. You ain't seen nothing yet. If they overturn the popular vote of Hillary through this investigation, it's gonna be almost like they're using those great big old funny boxing gloves that you can't hardly hold up to punch at each other. That's what's happening now. What they're going to do, the gloves are going to come off and they're going to put brass knuckles on. And they're going to come after anybody that they see as a target. Conservative. I'm not a Republican, but I'm a conservative. I'm a constitutional conservative who's also a Christian. They're going to target folks like us, because they think we're the problem. They think we're the ones that helped Hillary lose the election. And it was hers to win or lose. And that's why I always tell people who knock me for voting for a third party. It's like they never had my vote to begin with, and it's their election to win or lose with or without my vote. If they can't do it without my vote, then they don't need to be in the White House. And that's exactly what happened to Hillary. Sorry, Hillary. So they're really going ahead with this. And like I said, this Russian story has been distracting the mainstream media. Their hatred for Trump, and they have a laser focus on him, and they're letting a lot of this stuff slide under the radar. And I think it's funny. I think it's absolutely funny. And what's going to happen is this is going to come up and bite the mainstream media in the behind. Matter of fact, there was, I don't think, I do have this in here. No, I don't. Hang on. Now, I don't have it in here, but I was watching on One American News Network where they were talking about Hillary and the votes and all that kind of stuff. And it amazes me the information they're uncovering now. I do have another story we're not going to get into down here. Not fake news. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Loretta Lynch, now all under investigation by the FBI. And I corroborated this with a couple different sources, and this comes from the Joseph Curl over at the Daily Wire, and it's being reported by some other credible sources that Bernie Sanders and his wife retained a lawyer because they're under investigation for fraud. Definitely Hillary Clinton, Bernie and Loretta Lynch. What happened with Loretta Lynch, one, meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac during an election like that, it's got to violate something. It really does. Even if it's just the visage of impropriety. It's got, the optics on it are not good, but the Clinton Foundation, all these things need to be investigated because all this hanky-panky was going on during the Obama administration. And Trump's been asking, and I'm watching this on the news, where was President Obama during all this Russian hacking and stuff like that? This all happened under his watch, not Donald Trump's. It's all happened under Obama's watch. And the mainstream media is saying nothing about this. Think about that, folks. And I've said this before. This happened under Obama's watch, and no one's blaming Obama. It's funny how things are going on out there. Ben Shapiro has an article on the Daily Wire. Study: Seattle's $13 minimum wage led to a drop of $1,500 in income for low-wage earners. And basically what's happening is they're getting an hour. If they go up $15 an hour or $13 an hour like they have now, it was incremental in Seattle. The owners of the restaurants have no choice but to cut hours because they can't afford the wage. And if it goes to 15, they're going to cut employees. It's just that economics are hard to get around. You know, you only got so much money coming in from your food, and you can only charge so much before people will stop coming there. Well, stop coming there to eat. And if they stop coming there to eat, then the restaurant closes down, then they lose their job anyway. So there's only so much the consumer's going to absorb before they find other sources. It's called competition, my friends. Like I said, economics are a hard thing to get around. They really, really are. Let me see what's happening here. I do have an article here, real quick. I got a little bit of time here. Sandy Parker and Laura Spears, falsehoods used to justify healthcare vote. And I thought this was a real funny story. This is by Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire. He said, "Remember the time?" No, shoot, I grabbed the wrong one. Let me click that off. Study. Like I said, oh, here it is. So I didn't open everything up in alphabetical order, and I've been getting used to that. Today I did some research on the laptop downstairs, set it up, did some research here, didn't close everything out and open them back up in alphabetical order. I apologize. Sandy Parker and Laura Spears, falsehoods used to justify healthcare vote. Opinion, this happens to be in the Gainesville Sun in Gainesville, Florida. This was posted on the 23rd, on Friday. Indivisible Gainesville, local group of nearly 2,000 citizens, would like to express our dismay at U.S. Representative Ted Yoho's vote in favor of dismantling Affordable Health Care Act. The decision will negatively impact millions of Americans. And that's a falsehood in itself. It's going to actually help more people than they claim it's going to disenfranchise. It's going to open up competition. If we just repeal it, just repeal Obamacare, quit this nonsense of trying to replace the dumb thing. I'm so fed up with that, it isn't even funny. And this indivisible, falsehoods are used to justify a health care vote. Well, what was being used during Obamacare? You keep your doctor. You keep your health care plan. Premiums won't go up. We don't have death panels. Oh, just on and on and on with the falsehoods and the lies. Oh, Nancy Pelosi, we're going to pass it before we can find out what's in it. Now she turns around hypocritically and says, well, we need to read this bill before we pass it, gentlemen. Yesterday doesn't happen. Yesterday never existed for liberals and progressives, folks. Never did. Despite broad constituent disapproval, many of our own members received a form letter from Yoho explaining his vote. This letter was filled with misleading and inaccurate statements about the ACA and its proposed replacement. So we decided Yoho's work deserved to be graded. We invited everyone in Gainesville and the surrounding area to review Yoho's justification for supporting the American Health Care Act and our counter argument. So we're making a graded letter publicly available on our website, and there's a link in the page in the show notes page or in this article here, and it talks about please share and everything. And I just went over the first falsehood. They said the healthcare system under the ACA is unsustainable, and insurance companies are pulling out of the marketplace. Now they say that's a falsehood. That's actual fact. It's happening in real life. But these guys are trying to tell their folks, oh, this is a falsehood. This isn't actually happening. They said the truth, the ACA is not failing. The truth is that 20.4 million people gain health insurance thanks to ACA. And they don't deal with how many people are falling off of it now because insurance companies are pulling out of state exchanges. So their number one falsehood is a falsehood. It's not It is true. The healthcare system of the ACA is unsustainable. Again, go back to my Rand Paul, because the consumer's not directly in charge of the expenses. Their second falsehood, the American Health Care Act contains important components of true health care reform, and they say it doesn't. And the ACA would remove many of the benefits offered by ACA. Yeah, like you can wait until you're sick to buy insurance, and no pre-existing conditions. And again, if we just repealed Obamacare, the state's laws that have not been repealed with health care would kick in. And Pennsylvania and some other states I've researched, but I'm going to stick with Pennsylvania because that's where I live. There's laws on the books that prevents insurance companies from not insuring people. Now, there's some time limits that the people have to be on the insurance for a certain amount of time before the company has to start paying for it. And they can pay a premium, but it isn't exorbitant. It's not too high. And, again, if we go to medical savings accounts or health savings accounts, whatever you want to call it, this wouldn't be an issue. And then they go on the third falsehood. The congressman's basic justification for the repeal and replacement of the ACA is that it hurts our economy. For example, he stated that the laws, taxes, and regulations hurt job creators, and that the ACA's expansion of Medicaid and other federal subsidies propels our country more quickly into financial insolvency. That's actually that is a true statement. It's not false, it's a true statement. And they go on and try to justify with the ACA. And again, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your health care, and the premiums won't go up. Three of the biggest lies that got Obamacare pushed through. So groups like Indivisible, this is why I talk about them frequently. They are putting out this lie that they're resisting. They're resisting everything that's coming out of this White House. They're resisting everything that comes out of Republicans. They're resisting everything that comes out of conservatives, but they question nothing. If you read through this, folks, you shake your head because the explanations in here are so flimsy, it isn't even funny. But there's going to be some of their constituents and followers in Indivisible group that's going to listen to it because it's Indivisible group and they're talking against Donald Trump. Okay? Now, let's get into... I'm going to say that this article is going to be up on the show notes page. The solution to white supremacy is white abortion. And killing is never a solution, folks. It really isn't. But the one I really want to get into is the gospel calls us to resist Donald Trump. Let me get it. Come on. There it is. The gospel calls to resist Donald Trump. This is out of Medusa magazine. It's a very far left progressive feminist magazine on the internet. I don't know if they have a paper publication or not. Didn't really care to find out, to tell you the truth. By Nicole Valentine. She posted this on Friday. Now listen to this, folks. If you're a Christian and you know your Bible, this will literally make blood come out of your eyes on some of these things she's saying in here. Resistance to white supremacy, and just so you know, this Nicole Valentine, if you're white, you're not right. If you're white, you're not right, period. Okay? Resistance to white supremacy was the cornerstone of Christ's teachings. Okay? Now, just that first sentence, if a knowledgeable, hermeneutically correct Christian in their studying saw that, then the rest of the article they know is going to be a falsehood. Resistance to white supremacy was the cornerstone of Christ's teaching. She has no clue. And a couple of the other articles I actually read, just to be fair to her, she has no clue what she's talking about. None. I mean, none whatsoever. At the time of his birth, Christ's homeland was subject to European partisanism, but instead of submitting to white supremacy, Jesus resisted, and he calls us to do the same thing today. Case in point, Jesus never resisted the authority. What happened when he asked somebody, give me a denarius? He said, whose inscription's on this? They said, Caesar's. He said, okay, render unto Caesar's what's Caesar's, and render unto God's what's God's. And it's that simple. There's nowhere in the New Testament you're going to find where he tells you to resist the Roman authority, because his kingdom wasn't an earthly kingdom. He told Pontius Pilate, if I was a king of an earthly kingdom, my disciples would fight for me. But my kingdom is not of this earth. That's why his disciples weren't fighting to get him. Plain and simple. But the whole premise of this article is that Jesus resisting Rome. And they put a disclaimer. Medusa puts a disclaimer in there. But the thing is, with these disclaimers, if you, and I'm still not sure how I'd handle this, but if someone wants to post an article on my website or something like that, and it is totally bogus like this, I'm not gonna post this and put a disclaimer up. I'll link it. Like I'm actually doing a video on this also. It's in my video file. I'll link to it, tell you to go read it. But I'm not going to post an article where I have to put a disclaimer on it that this article is intended for Christian audiences. No, it's not. Sorry. Anyway, the country known today as Palestine has throughout its existence been subject to numerous waves of European colonization and white pollution. Key terms in here. White pollution. When the Hebrews crossed into the land from enslavement in Africa, the Levant was occupied by Canaanites and Philistines, sea people, the Greek origin known for their barbarism and piracy. After establishing a kingdom in the land, misgeneration with the remaining white populations caused ethnic divisions, leading to a civil war and eventually an absolute severance of the formerly united tribes. Again, totally taking the Bible out of the contents and reading things into the history of the Bible wasn't there. That's not why the two kingdoms divided. Sorry. It's not even close to what the Bible talks about that. Weakened the people of Judah were subject to a succession of statuses under a general Indo-European imperial, and I read this before, and I still have a problem with her wording and stuff. Suzerainty. The land passed hands from the Persian to the Greek and finally to Roman domination present at the time of Christ's birth. However, Jesus knew that his veins flowed with the ancient blood of the kings of the united tribes. The descendant of King David, Christ was African royalty, oppressed by white parasites, occupying his own kingdom with illegitimate and unnatural systems of colonization. Instead of backing down from his rightful throne, Jesus proudly proclaimed himself King of the Hebrews, spitting in the face of the white occupiers. It was not easy. European corruption had so infested the Levant that even the temple was perverted into the image of white capitalist supremacy. The priests meant to guard the ancient faith of the Hebrew people had succumbed to the Roman obsession with profit, turning over holy structures into tax generators for their leeches. Now, let me say, there were no Romans in those folks at the tables, folks. These were Hebrews, because they were talking about a specific part of the court. And I'm not saying there wasn't any Romans in there, but we're talking about people selling to the Hebrew people. And this whole narrative she puts forth is false. Has nothing to do with truth, has nothing to do with scriptures. She goes on to say Jesus resisted white supremacy. Christians following his example must resist Donald Trump. Donald Trump and the American government as a whole are inheritors of the classical Roman tradition of occupation, capitalism, and oppression. The government established in this land is by nature illegitimate. White colonizers, including Donald Trump, have no right to any piece of the property, wealth, or human resources generated herein. As Christ before us, is it time for Christians to unite in resisting the structures of white supremacy that pervade our society? Now, full disclosure, this is a young black woman. She's part of a society. She's a worship leader for the Progressive Women's Christian Ministry at the college she attends. She doesn't say what college it is. That's okay, but there's no bona fides in here for her to even talk like a Bible scholar, which she's not. Folks, real quick, I only got like 3 minutes here. Real quick, history thing because we're going through the book of Daniel on Sunday mornings at church. You had the Babylonian, you had the Medo-Persians, you had the Greek, and you had the Roman Empire. Then you had Jesus Christ. Now, the preceding kingdoms to Christ's kingdoms were physical kingdoms, and each one was greater than the one they dispossessed of their lands and displaced, including the Roman Empire. It was huge, bigger than any of these others. As a matter of fact, the Roman Empire was bigger than the previous three kingdoms combined. And then along came Christ, and his kingdom was going to shatter the Roman Empire. But it wasn't a physical deliverance. That's why we have Jews today still looking for the Messiah. That's why the book of Hebrews was talking to Christians who left the Hebrew faith and wanted to go back because they, for whatever reasons, and that's encouraged the Holy Spirit encouraged the Hebrew writer to tell them, look, you go back to the old ways, but there's no other sacrifice. Jesus is the only and perfect sacrifice for sin. There's not going to be another Redeemer. Jesus is it. There's no other sacrifice for sin but for Jesus Christ. And so Jesus Christ was not setting up a physical kingdom like the Hebrews thought he was, like this young lady mistakenly thinks he is. But the thing is, people are going to look at this, and the problem with this, people aren't even going to research it. They're going to take it as gospel, what she's saying. Yeah, these white supremacists. And not even understand, she talks about how they came from Egypt and how they dispossessed the land of the Canaanites and the Philistines and took and drove out all those evil people, and they were evil. If you go back and look at and do some studying in history, the people they dispossessed the land of were some wicked people. Child sacrifices? I mean, we can equate that to abortion today, but child sacrifices for just about anything, that is like evil, evil, evil. And that's what they're dispossessing land of. People need to go do their research. I know I'm coming down the end of the show here, but folks, this is articles like this just sort of get my dander up because people are going to follow that and get a misunderstanding of who Christ is and what he wants us to do today. He doesn't want us to resist Donald Trump. He doesn't want, and this whole idea of white supremacy, that's why I'm going to really dig down and research this about white supremacy. This is to me, it's looking like it's a bogus claim to begin with. Something that they can virtue signal about on the progressive left, saying, look what I'm against. I'm resisting this. I don't know what I'm resisting. I'm not going to question what I'm resisting, but I'm resisting this because I think it's the best thing to do. Without, again, resisting everything, questioning nothing, folks, questioning nothing. Well, I see that my time has quickly ran out. I didn't get to everything I wanted to today, but you know what, folks? That's okay. We can do that. We got 5 days this week, Lord willing. He gives me the time to do that. Folks, this has been the Dan Clements Show. I'm your host, Dan Clements, your constitutional warrior. Remember, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. If you have any questions, send them to DANC at constitutionalwarrior.com. That is my email. You can go to the danclementshow.com, click on the contact page, and send me emails that way. If you have questions about anything. So have a great rest of the day, and God bless. And Lord willing, to see you tomorrow at noon.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.